Following the utility collapse in Russia, a transport collapse has begun. Over the past year, almost 100 roads have been closed. Experts talk about a general degradation of the transport system in settlements.
The closure of routes is primarily due to the extremely bad condition of equipment. For example, about 40% of trolleybuses and trams in Russia are operating beyond their normal service life. They are kept in working condition not from a good life, but only because of the lack of replacement with new modern low-floor transport. From the Telegram channel of the Moscow Times.
If before the start of Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine the main reason for the poverty of Russians was the corruption of officials, then after February 24, 2022, theft of managers became a smaller concern. The Kremlin is ready to spend its last ruble to continue the war. For example, in 2024, 1,400 billion rubles will be spent on healthcare from the state budget of the Federation. According to analysts' calculations, this is how much 50 days of war against Ukraine will cost Russian taxpayers.
As for the current problems that Russia is experiencing, this was expected. If we are talking about the housing and utilities sector, if we are talking about roads, if we are talking about providing some basic social needs, then traditionally, if money was allocated for this, the problems were not solved at all. And every time we talk about the Russian economy, as a rule, we talk about large numbers related to revenues associated with energy exports. Meanwhile, traditional household problems have not been solved for years.
The Russian economy is going through difficult times. Due to Western sanctions against the aggressor country, even its most successful sector, the oil and gas, is suffering losses. A project to build a gas processing complex near St. Petersburg is on the verge of collapse. It will be financed from the National Welfare Fund.
After the outbreak of war, Lind company, with whom the contract for the design and construction of the complex was signed, withdrew from the project, and the deadlines were missed. Now, the launch of the gas processing and gas chemical complex is scheduled for 2026-2027, and the LNG planned for 2027-2028, according to the government order. Gazprom cannot afford to pay for the construction with its own funds. After the loss of the European market, Gazprom's exports to non-CIS countries fell to their lowest level since 1985, only 69 billion cubic meters last year. From the Telegram channel of the Moscow Times.
At the same time, at first glance, the performance of the Russian economy is not critical. The reason is the injection of trillions of state rubles into the military-industrial complex. Experts are confident that the Kremlin will not be able to maintain the balance at the expense of the military industry for long.
Today we can observe in general the stress, if I may so, of the Russian economy due to the war. Well, and the situation is only going to get worse from here on. The figures that the Russian leadership is boasting today about GDP growth should be taken with a certain skepticism. Why? Because large military expenditures are sitting there. If there were no military expenditures, the question arises whether there would be such growth in the economy.
In 2024, spending on Russia's military-industrial complex will account for a third of all spendings. This is the highest figure since the collapse of the Soviet Union. Reported by Anastasia Tarnavska, Larisa Zubenko, UATV News.